right, so think about this. DNA, remember, it's one of the 4 organic compounds, molecules. So you have lipids, proteins, carbs, and nucleic acids. So DNA is a nucleic acid. So remember, those come in polymers. They're real big. All those 4 molecules, they have big, they're big molecules, polymers. Nucleic acids, the DNA, they're some of the biggest. Some of the biggest. Now think about this. If you take one strand of DNA and you let it unwind and you can hold it, it's going to drop down about 2 inches. Okay? Because you know it's twisted, right? It's a double helix. So it's best way to do it is like a coil. It's like a double coil. And so, but if you let the coils drop out, it's 2 inches long. That's the biggest molecule by far. The thing is, you can't see it. But if you would take 5,000 straightened DNA molecules and lay them side by side, they would be about the width of a hair. So if you could pull a hair off your head and look at it, that's about 5,000 DNA strands side by side look like. Just to give you an idea. Okay? Now this lady over here that you see, her name's Rosalind Franklin. And you don't hear much about her, but she's the one responsible for helping us figure out that DNA is twisted. So what she did here is, you can see it looks like a bike spokes here. What she did is she took a strand of DNA that was all coiled up and she turned it sideways and took an x-ray of it right down the center. So if you could look at that coil down the center, you can see the spokes in it. And that's how we figured out that, wow, okay, this stuff it's twisted. Okay? And she's the person responsible for this. Now, DNA is just an acronym, right? But you can see why it's an acronym, because you don't want to always walk around and say, hey, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is where your DNA comes from. And let's look at what those mean. So if you look at the D, the D stands for deoxyribose, which is a sugar. So if you could actually taste it, I'm not sure, I'm going to take a guess, but I think it would be kind of sweet. Okay? So deoxyribose. This would be that outer portion of the ladder. If you think about that group activity we did yesterday and they were comparing it with a ladder, this would be where you would place your hands if you're going up. That's that part of it. The phosphate group, that would also be, that's the end. That would also be out here on that backbone of the ladder on each end. And then the A would be your bases, or the rungs of the ladder, which your steps, right? You come up, you go walking up the steps. That's what the bases are considered if you were comparing it to a ladder. Now what you got to put to memory, and I would say probably 80% of the people in this particular class could do this no problem. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. There's the 4 bases. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine. Adenine goes with which one? Thymine. They always pair that way. Whenever they come in close contact with each other, they'll just do this. They'll go click. They'll stick together. Cytosine, guanine, you get them close together and they'll click. But if you get an adenine near a thymine, they cannot connect. Now, the A and the T, when they form, this is going to be really key today. That's called a base pair. Then the C and G, they would be a base pair. And on one strand of DNA, there's like 140 million base pairs. In the information that makes us, there's 3 billion base of these. And all the instructions that make people. That's craziness. That's cool. Now I've got that structure circled right there. Remember, DNA is a polymer. Do you remember what the smallest part of a polymer is? Think of the chain and then a chain link. Chain is a polymer. The chain link means 1. Monomer. Okay? This is the monomer. This is what's called a nucleotide. We're going to come back to it here in a second. But I'm just trying to throw out a spit wad here so you guys can remember it. So a lot of these put together make a big DNA molecule. So cytosine, guanine, adenine, thymine. Okay, the shape. It might have been this class. No, it was 5th period. Somebody said, you're supposed to describe the shape, and he was like, well, it's a double helix. And I was like, okay, what's a double helix? Well, it's a double helix. And he kept going back. He's like, he knew what it was, but he couldn't explain it. Just a coil. I always thought, those tornado slides you got when you're a little kid, you get out. I love those things. That's what it reminds me of. Okay? And so if you take that ladder on the left and you twist it, you get that on the right. That's that kind of the shape. And remember, the rungs are the adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, and then your outside, that's your phosphate group, and that's your sugar of the DNA molecule. Now, I want you to, and you guys can handle this. I'm going to show you this. What do you notice? There are several things you should notice about this. Katie.
Adenine and thymine only have 2, and cytosine and guanine have
Okay, that's one. Good. There's something else you should notice. Anything. If you get it wrong, who cares? I don't. We'll laugh at you, we move on. You don't notice anything different? Something that maybe you didn't think it was really that way? What is it?
upside down.
Yeah. See? Look, these are going this way, right? Look at these. They're going the opposite way. That's crazy, isn't it? Okay, that's a good thing. Now check it out. These are hydrogen bonds, right? So remember, if you go back to the very first day we started talking chemistry, you know, hydrogen bonds you can break easy. Remember, you think of it like a zipper. That's what your DNA is like. These got to be broken so it can be replicated and all kinds of cool things. But look here, between these two, C and G, there's 1, 2, 3 hydrogen bonds. There's only 2 here. See why they can't come together? It just doesn't work. Okay. I'm going to move on. Now, this is creepy. Look what that says up there on the left. You don't have to write it, just look. Scientists have created synthetic DNA with 4 extra letters. That's from 2019, so you know they've advanced this more. They created artificial DNA. Is that a good idea? What if you're trying to create a biostorage mechanism for information? How much information do you think DNA can hold? A lot. But if you take a flash drive, right? The biggest flash drives we got right now are what, 256 gigs? But think about a little strand that you can't even see. It's amazing. And so what they're doing here, what I think they're trying to do, if I remember right, is they're trying to make a biological storage information system. So they have to keep it alive. So they can basically write information on DNA, squirt it into your body, and you can store it. Pretty cool when they want to put all your medical records in your own DNA. That way they can take it out and they know everything about you. Creepy. Okay, so check it out. See the C, G, U, and A? U and T, they kind of go hand in hand. Those are Mother Nature's versions. But look at down below. The Z, the P, the R, S, and then it looks like the B. Those are the man-made ones. And I bet you they've got more. Now they've actually assembled these into bacteria to see what they would do. And I know, and I do remember this, they did nothing. So maybe it's not harmful. Who knows? Okay, and then that picture on the left, that's what a normal strand of DNA looks like. Like right through it, like Rosalind Franklin. There's the man-made DNA. So you can see it has way more spokes. So 4 nucleotide bases, and then 8. That's crazy. All right. So write this down. I'm always trying to find ways to make, because genetics, DNA and stuff, I'm convinced that people don't have it explained the right way to them, and so it makes it so much harder to understand. Because I know I struggled with it, and so I'm trying to think. Okay, well DNA, they always have you ever heard somebody say it's a cookbook?
No.
DNA contains all of the information to make you. So a cookbook has information on how to make dishes. So if you buy a cookbook that says Italian cuisine, it'll be a cookbook of Italian desserts and main dishes and salads, everything. Okay, and so you got a standalone book about Italian cuisine. Well, our DNA is a standalone instruction book to make us. And somebody asked me today, well, Mr. Dobson, do you think they've cloned anybody yet? They can clone cows, they can clone goats, they can clone sheep, they can clone dogs and cats. So chances are pretty high that they cloned a human being. Wouldn't that be cool? Like a if Mrs. Dobson gave birth to my clone, and then when it was born, it would be like little baby Dobson. Oh, dude, that's what you look like. You handsome devil, right? You go, whoa, this is cool. That baby would be the exact same as me, just a smaller version, have the same number of hairs on its head. But chances are, if I raise my own clone, I'm not going to raise it the way I was raised. It would become different. Wouldn't that be cool? It's wild. I also read one time when they started talking about cloning, and I haven't heard any advancements in this, but they said, I have trouble believing it, but they said if they cloned a human being, there would be something about the belly button. Does that mean? Anyway, the belly button would be huge. So if you're ever at a beach, girls, you see this hot guy coming down the beach, guys, you see this hot girl come, you're like, all of a sudden her belly button's like this, or his belly button, run. That's a clone. Again, I don't know that that's what it is, but think about it. If DNA, you compare it like a cookbook. So if we want to make a clone in the instructions, we got to go grab our DNA. Now, we're made up of like 2,000 different proteins. And so, and if that's a cookbook, we got 2,000 types of dishes our instructions are needed to make us, okay, for our protein. Well, protein is made up of amino acids. Well, whatever dish, this is salsa, it has ingredients. So think of all the different combinations of amino acids that can come together to make a protein, and then all the proteins come together to make you. So think of that. I mean, that keeps it in kind of a simple, easy to understand form. Okay, so these are your DNA is all your cookbook. You need to know the ingredients to make the proteins, and the proteins come, the 2,000 of them make you. Okay, I think that's a test question. Okay, now, the only thing I want to show you here, remember, polymers, monomers. Here is a monomer. Here is a monomer. You guys did this on your quiz, and you all did great. It said circle a monomer. I think only one group out of all the classes didn't get this. Okay, and so this puts together, and you start getting a very short chain, and you build this really long one. And so know that and this is a test question, the monomer of DNA is a nucleotide. It's called a nucleotide. So when you hear me say nucleotide, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's A goes with T. That's a base pair. C and G, that's a base pair. And remember, the human beings have about 3 billion base pairs. There are some creatures that have more, some less. But we're talking about us. Now, last thing. Humans are 99 point something. So you and I, you and each other, you guys are like 99 point something alike genetically. That's what allows us to have children that are humans. That means you're the same species. You can interbreed. Okay? And what makes that possible is that your genes, my genes, all human beings' genes and chromosomes, they match up almost pretty identical. 99 point something. But when you start talking about a tree's arrangement is going to be different than our arrangement. Although a tree is still going to have adenine that's going to be paired with thymine. You're not going to get away from that. And it's going to have cytosine, and it's always going to be paired. So every living thing on this planet has A, T, C, and G, but in different orders. Did you hear, this was news yesterday, because they landed the Mars probe. It made a successful landing on Mars, and so now this thing that's the size of my truck, much more advanced, is tooling around on Mars. And one of the directors of NASA, I think he was retired, said Mars has all the conditions for life. So somewhere they think there's going to be life. So that's what this thing is tooling around looking for. And if it is, it's probably going to have adenine, and it's probably going to have thymine, cytosine, guanine. It's going to be interesting when they actually find it. But it's probably going to be a bacteria. And we'll see if that's what it actually, if it has those. Okay? And if you look, and I just kind of made this up. If you have monkey and a rose, I don't know. I could have put Godzilla and something else. I don't know. But look, they all may have A, T, C's, and G's, but it's a different arrangement. So the sequence determines what life that is, what form it takes. Okay, any questions? Okay, if we do this next thing right,